Okay, so everybody knows if they're watching my video, I'm an Android guy. So why am I got this in front of me? Okay, this is the iPad Pro 10.5 and this came out June 2017. So backstory is that I was looking for, basically I was looking for the most powerful tablet available at a certain size, which would have to be at least under 12 inches. So I looked around and I considered a lot. I looked at the Surface Pro, I looked at the Samsung, I looked at Huawei MateBook, I looked at some cheaper options, but when it came down to all, this is a rose gold color one. When it came down to all, the most powerfulest tablet that I could find that had the screen that I was interested in was the iPad Pro 10.5. Now this cost just under 3,000, and I think I got this. Where did I get this? Yeah, this came from Souq.com because it has FaceTime and LASM FaceTime. Okay, so we've got to have FaceTime. So, what about my hate for iTunes? Well, yeah, I still hate iTunes. I think it's crap. Um, and for the most part, my go-to app for you, because I use this for transferring a lot of documents. So either if it's I send by email or if it's a lot, I'm using ShareIt. Okay, this is ShareIt Pro. It's free on Android, so I can download stuff onto my torrents, shall we say. I can download onto my phone, and then by using ShareIt, I can just transfer them. So really, for the most part, I'm not saying that I haven't used iTunes, because I have. I don't need to use it. ShareIt does everything for me. So I don't know if anybody has seen the iPad Pro 10.5. If you see it in a shop in isolation, you think it's the exact same size as, say, the iPad Air or the 9.7 iPad Pro. But if you see them side by side, you will realize that, of course, I'm trying not to get the reflection here from the overhead light. It's 10.5 inches, so the body is almost about the same. It's just that they have made the screen bigger, the bezels are less. So it is slightly bigger and it's a bit heavier, not much heavier. It is very, very thin. Now you can see here, if you haven't seen it in the shops, it's very thin. So quick rundown of the specs, and I had to look at GSM Arena here to go over it. So the screen is there, 2224 by 1668, so it's 2K almost, probably more than that. Now what is really great about the screen is it has this, they call it ProMotion, or Apple's ProMotion. So they have this 128 hertz refresh rate, so that when you're using it, certainly like things on the internet and scrolling, etc., it is very smooth. So really, you're not going to find a better or faster tablet than this. It has the, let me get this right again, it has the A10X Fusion processor, and this baby has 4 GB of RAM, and my particular model has 256 GB of internal storage, and this is Wi-Fi model. I don't really need with my MiFi, I don't really need the SIM card there. iOS 11 updated. Just before I forget, because I always do, and it's not that I'll ever use it, but the camera, 12 megapixel camera, I believe it is the same as the iPhone 7, and really, iPhones always had really good cameras, so the camera on here would really decent. And the front camera is, I think it is 8 megapixel, and great for the at FaceTime, whatever, video calling. So iOS 11 really, to me, makes more sense now on a tablet. I use this mostly for work, and if I'd gone with the Surface, our work network for Windows 10, I can't connect it, to the work network now. Only for some reason it will only connect Android and Apple devices. So plus I wanted to have something that nobody else had around. Some people are carrying at the moment the Surface Pro, which is really nice. It's a great, I really like it. But so I went with this. I've downloaded the ubiquitous Word suite, which is fine. I mean, it's limited for free. And also, my go-to Office app is this one here, Smart Office, if anyone can see. Uh, and I believe that this is free, although I have a memory that I paid for it somehow, I don't know, but this is the one that I use the most. Adobe, need the Adobe for my magazines, etc. So with with iOS 11, it just becomes more. You have your dock. I'm not going to go into a review of iOS 11 because plenty of people are doing that. I don't need to do that. But you have your dock, you have your swipe up, you have your control center. You can now multitask, more than you could before. You can have a couple of pages, a couple of apps open, and work side by side. So it really makes more sense. It's certainly, in my opinion, and I've used a couple of iPads, it is the best that has, for productivity, shall we say, it is definitely the best. I read a lot of magazines on this, and the screen is absolutely brilliant. It's very, very bright. I mean, I've got it on less than half brightness. That's more than enough. It's incredibly bright. So I used iTunes. I was in hospital recently for a day, and I used iTunes to transfer over some movies and TV programs just to watch while I was in. And of course, the thing that really annoys me is that a lot of files just won't play. Although I downloaded this app, let me see, which should play all of them. It's called Player Extreme, which should play all types of files, MKV, anything. But the now it's with using iTunes, you're transferring over MKV files. It still won't let you do it, and I just got frustrated with it. Maybe there is a way, I just didn't know, so I kind of gave up with it. I suppose you can. In fact, what I did with some of the MKV files was I used the Share It Pro app, which was okay with bigger files. It does take a while, but I did it, and you can just leave it to get on with it, and it worked out completely fine. So Share It Pro is the app to go with for transferring your files from wherever. So I would download a movie on my phone, say, transfer it over, or transfer a movie onto my phone. You can use Share It, transfer a movie onto my phone from PC, then use Share It. But you can use Share It with a PC to the iPad. But I didn't work out to do it because I'm not that intelligent. It did take a bit more setup, so that's how I used it. So for that, it's fine. That's not something I'll be using a lot of course, to do that, but it's fine. So I read a lot of magazines, and it's perfect for magazines. It really is it's the perfect size. It's not heavy. The screen with that refresh rate is excellent. Just before I forget, of course, it has the fingerprint here on the home button, which I haven't used. The It is very light and very easy to carry. I have it in the cover, obviously, but it's just, there really is the perfect size. 10.5, the way that they have done it with the bezels, etc., and the size of the body is the perfect size for a tablet for work. I have a colleague who has the 12.9, and it's just too the 12.9 iPad Pro, and it's just too big. From what I would say is just far too big. So of course, now with the iOS 11, you have a better access for file management as well. That does make um, a bit of a difference. So there's the file manager here, and it does make a bit of a difference. And my suspicion is that as iOS 11 gets its updates and maybe moves to iOS 12, the it will get even better. So it's certainly better for work purposes. Now, I don't use a keyboard, and I don't plan on buying the Apple keyboard. It's far too expensive. Really, any keyboard would be suitable for this, any Bluetooth type keyboard, and I'll probably buy a cheap one to use. um, I will, however, most probably buy the pen, because I tried the pen in Extra, and the pen is excellent. It's just really expensive. It's like over 400 reals. So I mean, I'm going to look for a second-hand one, try and get some money off it. So I will definitely use the pen. What else can I tell you about it? The sound has the 4 speakers. Sound is absolutely excellent. My wife has the 9.7 iPad Pro, and the sound from them speakers really impressive. Sound from these ones equally impressive. So for media, whatever you're looking at, the sound for a tablet and for this thin is excellent. So definitely worth it in that sense. So this will only really appeal for the most part. I mean, I still like Android. Not like, it's Android is my favorite, and of course all my phones are Android. I'll never go to iPhone, although I like the iPhone 10, and my wife is an iPhone user, and she'll be upgrading soon to iPhone 10. It's nice looking, don't get me wrong, everything, but I mean, it's horrendously expensive. So I'm happy to look at my Android phones and use different ones. Um, the So this will appeal mostly to people who are used to iOS, and who are maybe looking for something a bit more powerful. Now, the specs on this, I would say, are going to make this tablet relatively future-proof. I know the iPhone 10 has a different type of processor, which has some AI, artificial intelligence parts to it, which this one doesn't. But so I would imagine their next update of the iPad Pros will probably have the same processor. But for the most part, the speed of it, the power of that processor. I mean, I read that this was benchmarking better than some iPad Pros. Sorry, the MacBook Pros and MacBook Air. So the benchmarking was faster. So it's very, very powerful. So it's really future-proof for a good while. And for me, as I say, for the work use, it's really just the best size. And with the screen, you couldn't ask for more than that. So I mean, if you're an Android person and you are looking for something that is really powerful, and you're thinking about it, I would say go for it. If you've got the money, go for it and use the Share It Pro. Forget about, there's other apps as well. There's other programs that you can buy or download that basically take the take the place of iTunes. So there are ways to bypass it. If you're a gamer, tablet gamer, mobile gamer, then this is definitely has got the power for all your gaming needs. It is really a very powerful piece of kit, and it will last you a while, providing you don't drop it. Don't let your kid play with it. It's definitely something to consider, because really Android wise is the Samsung tablet, as I said, is what, a 9.7. I can't remember the model number, and there's a couple of other ones. I even looked at Dell, but you know, they were running Intel processors, and I just didn't want to go down that route. Plus, they weren't as thin, and they were heavier. I looked at another tablet, and I can't remember. I was thinking about the Nexus 9, and the Google Pixel, as it called, the Pixel tablet. Anyway, I looked at loads. Some of them were quite expensive as well. So uh, I decided on this. It does have here, you can see the Pogo connections there for connecting to your keyboard, etc. This is one powerful piece of electronics, and I mean, it's a joy to use. If you can, iOS 11 is certainly, in my book, the best version that they've had, and it just makes more sense now. When you're using it, perhaps for business, work type activities, definitely it is worth considering if you have the money. So that's it. There's plenty of better iPad Pro reviews than mine. I just wanted to share it with you, as you know, I've had it now for about a month. Um, Really, it has satisfied all my needs. It's actually better than I anticipated. If only we could have Android on this, it would be, you know, the best of the best. Of course, I don't think there's any way to do that unless somebody uses some kind of virtual software or something. But yeah, so that's it. Questions, anything you want to know, I will do my best to answer it. I'm not the world's expert on iOS. I have had to deal with a lot of problems with other people from work who have had problems with their iPads. It is a bit frustrating. I will just mention, even though my kid has their iPad and they use my Apple ID, when I was setting this up to confirm my account, you know, verification, it just wouldn't work with my Gmail at all. Wouldn't send the email to verify. It's very annoying. It's a very common problem. So I changed my Apple ID to my Hotmail, and it worked. So there's still some frustrations. It's not that 100% perfect, but it's not to do with the hardware. I think it's to do with Apple control, and just some nonsense that is always ongoing with iTunes and iOS. So it's definitely worth a peek. Check it out. That's it. Bye.